things have changed just in the world so much that it's definitely upended publishing. This writing community has always been helpful to me. Growing up in the South, there's a lot of Southern mythology and just storytelling in general that's kind of big. I absolutely cannot disagree with that.
Books, rhymes, and life.
What's good, everybody, and welcome to Books, Rhymes, and Life. We are back with another show today. I'm excited, so everybody kick back, let your incense burn on both ends, and get ready to hear some people talk about hip-hop. I got my man Big Absolute with me. I got my man Camo with me. And today, without any further to do, we're going to get into our list. It's a top 9 list of the most underrated MCs in hip-hop. It's going to be a fun list because there's a lot of people on here that deserve to get their flowers. And we're going to have a little bit of fun with it like we always do. You know the rules. You know how we did it. MVP style voting to give us our top 9. And you know the rules for talking. Each of these cats gets a minute and a half apiece. When they go over that time, they hear this.
You've reached your limit on talking. Shut the up.
So that's how we gonna do it. Let's get ready. Coming in at number 9, CyHi the Prynce. Camo, I know how you're feeling about this one, man. I know you're charged up on this one. Go ahead and tell us what's up with this one. Number 9, CyHi.
This is why I put him on the list. This happens to CyHi. I'm surprised he even made the list. This is what happens. He's at the bottom of the list. Again, he gets no respect. Nah, it's cool, man. Hey, that's how it feel. I don't know, man. I got artists that I like better as far as I won't say he's my favorite artist of all time, but if I had to pick a favorite lyricist of all time, this might be the dude. Like, I think he's super ill, slick, every category. I like people who really show that they have he's masterful with words and everything he does. The whole time I'm like, what did he just say? It's like the ooh factor or the rewind factor. Like, I could just hear him over and over. He just breaks things down so well. And I think he slept on. He's got a bunch of hits for all kind of people. Jay-Z and whoever else, not saying Jay can't write, but whoever else he's penned stuff for, Kanye or whoever else. And I don't think a lot of people know that, but regardless, I'm glad he made the list. I'm happy. I'm just playing. I'm happy. He's on there.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I had to go back through. I know who he is. I've heard him. I love the that side, his hater song. So, but I did have to dive into him when we started talking about this list so I could get back into it. And I really did. I appreciate lyricism from people who can also make a song because those two things don't always go together. Absolute, what you think, man?
Yes, CyHi for me, man, is he's as Camo said, he's one of the dopest out there. But it's funny that he fell where he fell on this list because we do another show and we talk about just people who spit, whatever. Like, all three of us discuss CyHi left and right. My issue with CyHi, or not really my issue, but the reason why I can see how he made 9 is he might be the most. Let me hit you with the oxymoron. He might be the most memorable, unmemorable in all the hip hop. Most of the time, you think about a CyHi line, you don't remember it was him that said it, but you remember the line. Like, just when you were talking about his song, like, I love that song, but until I heard it right then, I forgot it was him. I was like, it's a dude made this song that I really, and that's kind of how he is, man. And I mean, it's great that he's on the list. He deserves to be on the list, but it's just, I won't say irony, I guess, but it's just ironic that he hit the last spot on this list of most underrated MCs. Because I mean, how else can you explain it, really? But totally being underrated, really, and just kind of under the radar a lot. Like, I think he gets way more credit for his writing than his actual songs and stuff that he spits. But the dude is phenomenal.
Yeah, like I say, I'm just impressed with, and I've said this before, so I'm going to say it again. I'm just impressed with like being lyricism and putting songs together. But I do have a question for y'all, either one of y'all or both of y'all. What do you think it is that keeps him underrated? What's holding him back?
I think that you both hit on it. I mean, look at the success. If you pull up his list of credits of songs he's been a part of, like we all going, they sleep. Me mainly. They sleep on CyHi, but dude's got credits under his belt. If you got a career like that, I mean, maybe you don't have time to always go in the forefront. Looks like he dabbles in the forefront a little bit and does a lot of maybe the rest of, maybe even me, some that I don't even know. I think that's been the bulk of his career. So now I think we're just starting to see with the show he put on the web and the new EP. I'm looking forward to the EGOT. I think he's making better and better songs, as you said, and not just the hard freestyles, like a cannabis type or something.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like he found the lane early. He rode that lane, and subsequently, it kept him kind of looking over the fence. You know what I'm saying? Like not really over the fence in front of everybody, but just in a lane where you knew of him, you knew about him, but there just wasn't enough out there for you to really know him. And kind of like Kemo said, now I agree with all the stuff that's coming out, especially over the last year and a half. So all the projects and all the things that he's got coming, I feel like he's gonna punch the game in the face, man, and kind of like a reminder of I've always been this, but I've been comfortable with putting the Kanyes and the Jays and a couple of the other artists that I've worked with up here and kind of stood back here in the photo. But now I'm finna move everybody out the way and come on through, man. So one, congrats to him on all the upcoming success. And yeah, I think we do this again in a year. He won't fall on this list at all, right? You may be talking about him again on the previous show type of list. So.
Yeah, and it may be one of those things. I know we've all probably experienced in our careers. It's a common thing when you try to get your hands in one too many projects. Like if that just, I mean, I know that happens to a lot of entertainers. It happens to a lot of people, but that when you, especially when you start off in your career and you think, I want to do this, 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 and this, and you start trying to do all of that. Well, when you're young and you're doing all of those different things, it's hard to get really good at any one of them because, you have to age a little bit to understand that you have to specialize. You have to focus in on those one or two things that you really want to be good at. And you have to be on those things all the time. So maybe that is, early on in a career, maybe you're just like, I want to try all of this stuff. And you don't ever really get to be out front on any of it.
Yeah, good point.
You see that.
But that's just my thought. That's just my opinion. Nobody should care about that other than people that like and subscribe to the show. There's a button for that. Like and subscribe on that. Please do that. That makes us all feel better. All right. So coming in at number 8, Andre 3000. Oh, this is one of my favorite ones because Andre 3000 is just one of my favorite people. I'm going to be real, man. Like there's so much about every time I see an interview with him or I hear somebody tell a story about him, there's something new that I like about him because 3 Stacks is weird, man. And I like weird artists. I'm not, because he just does whatever he feels like doing, man. Like he feels a passion for something and he put out a flute album. I'll even quote LL, the flute beat. Now, I mean, I didn't, I'm not mad at LL for saying that, but I disagreed with him. Like, Andre could do a flute album if he wants to, man. I don't care. He didn't tell us he was going to be rapping on it. He didn't say he was doing a new rap album. He didn't promise any of that. He just said he was doing a new album. But anyway, I do think he gets underrated partly because of what I just said, partly because he is weird. And I think, not weird, but he walks to the beat of his own drum. And I think sometimes people might not take you as seriously because of that. And I think that happened to him early on in his career. I think people are starting to recognize him as an artist a little bit more. But I think early on in his career, I think people wanted to laugh at him a little bit more than pay attention to him. And I think they really messed up by that. Camo, what do you think about that one?
I was surprised to see him on this list. If I had to name one rapper on the opposite end of the spectrum that I think is, let's say we made a least underrated. I hear people say him all the time. The number one name that I think that I hear people say when you're talking about top lyricist list, I hear people say that all the time. I too am a fan of him. I like the weirdness too. I'm into that as an artist. I think a lot of times though, he's kind of overshadowed. I don't want to say that, but I don't think Big Boy gets named enough for my taste. I like both of them, of course, but I was a little bit more into Big Boy, and I think Andre is always named on the lyricist list, and we hardly ever see Big Boy. So I was a little surprised to see him on this list, actually.
Well, hold on that Big Boy thing. I got something for you later, partner. BA, what do you think about 3 Stacks, man?
I'm confused on how the hell he's on the list at all.
What?
To say Andre 3000 is an underrated spitter is like saying the zebra is an underrated horse.
Bang,
Like,
bang,
it
bang.
clearly stands out. Like, he clearly stands out. I think Andre 3000 and Busta Rhymes, and I know I think they fall into the same pocket. They're so good to be touted as one of the best, but they're never on anybody's actual 5, right? Anybody's top 5 best. Not saying they shouldn't be. It's just kind of how it falls, right? I think, I kind of look at Outkast albums probably different than most. To me, Southern Playalistic was what I like to say the rise of Big Boy. I felt like Southern Playalistic was stylistically more fitting for Big Boy, right? And then I feel like ATL Aliens was our introduction to Andre 3000. And me and you, I won't go through it, but the last part of Andre's verse on that song keeps him off this list, in my opinion. Just that alone, not saying nothing else. So real spitters know what I'm talking about, right? That's all I'm gonna say about it.
You got lucky. I was generous
I seen your neck all twitching and whatnot. I seen
had
you
a ru-
eyeballing 2-3 times.
I had a rough day, so I gave you that one. I'm just gonna be like, you didn't go way too far, and I was like, I've had a bad day. I'm not just gonna throw the air horn around willy nilly.
Appreciate you.
Yeah. No, I think I put him on this list just for anybody else who's watching who wants to understand how he got on this list, just so they don't think the rappers appeared on this list that none of us knew about. Because I've always felt like that, and maybe that's just completely been my opinion, but I've always felt like people kind of more thought of Andre as kind of a caricature sometimes. Like maybe a persona or whatever that he kind of takes, because every rapper has a persona. Let's not lie about that. Like every entertainer has a persona. Like then most of the older ones will tell you that. Like Fat Joe lately in his interviews has been a little too honest about some things for some people. But that's for the top 5 too honest rappers. That's for another show. So moving on to number 7. And as Camo asked for, number 7, most underrated rapper, Big Boy, Big Absolute.
Yeah.
You look the most excited. Why don't you start us off on that one?
Yeah, I mean, you call it a lead in, you call it whatever you want to, right? But the previous conversation set this up beautifully. When people think Outkast, for many years, especially after Aquemini and everything after Aquemini, really, it was always Andre first, and Big Boy was kind of like an afterthought. Again, in my opinion, like Chad always says, it don't mean nothing to nobody but me, right? But I believe this dude, for legitimately everything Chad said previously about Andre, is the argument for Big Boy. Stylistically, they should have only made 2 albums, because after ATL Aliens, you could clearly see the growth and maturation of both of them, and they were going in 2 totally different directions. So kudos to them that they hung on and made an Aquemini and made a Stank on and made us, you know what I'm saying? because
Bang,
every
bang,
album got better.
bang, bang.
Every album
bang,
got better as they
bang,
grew.
bang.
But I think Big Boy was always the forgotten soldier in that group. Even when he did his solo album, everybody still was kind of, when y'all gonna do another Outkast album? You know what I'm saying? So I always kind of felt like, he could never get out from under that thumb. But I'm glad he hit the list, man. I'm glad he hit the list.
Camo, man, back to Big Boy. You mentioned him earlier, so yeah, what are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I was happy, man. I think he's slept on. Any of his solo albums, any of his solo projects are up there, arguably, with the Outkast. It didn't skip a beat. It's not like, man, I love Outkast, and Big Boy's got cool out. Nah, that's still Outkast albums. They still hard. They're minus 3 stacks,
And that's a fact.
but they ride. The one with Sleepy Brown, the one with what's the other group? The Big Grams EP. Like, everything he drops is nasty, and I don't think he skipped a beat. He ain't slowed down. He ain't aged out yet. And yeah, I was happy to see it. I don't even know. I believe I remember seeing the list and going, "Oh, I'm glad Big Boy's on there," because I definitely would have. I don't know how I didn't. I don't think he made my list, but yeah, definitely happy to see him on here. I think he deserves to be on there for sure.
Yeah, and he's another one of those rappers that as he ages, I think I've talked to both of you guys separately in other conversations about how impressive it is or how much I enjoy seeing like rappers that I grew up with that aren't that much older than me or close to my age, and watching them like grow into as artists into like better and better things. Like Big Boy's, he's a grown man artist now, and the way he talks in his interviews, like it's really good to see. Because sometimes people get stuck in those youthful ways and they stay in them a little too long. But I like to see that a lot of people in his class, especially, grew into entrepreneurs and doing other things. So, they're underrated in a lot of different ways, I think, not just musically.
Right. Good point.
All right. Coming in at number 6, Ludacris, Christopher Bridges, Luda. Luda is made it on our to number 6 on the most underrated rappers. Big absolute. Talk about Ludacris, man.
First off, people need to really stop sleeping on him. Like, I mean, what else is there for the man to do? Like, I get he was a couple albums in before he won the big award, right? Whatever. But this dude knows how. So we talk about all these different things about artistry, right? Luda knows how to make an album, and he's a classic album maker. He makes a radio cut, right? He makes a little something for not necessarily for the ladies, but something on the softer side, right? And then he makes 1 or 2 songs to remind you that I do this thing like as a real MC, right? I do this thing. And I just, he has so many quotables. He has so many moments, so many what I like to call captures, right? And so many of his songs, like gimmicky as they is, like stand up, get back. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they fun, but just like even in jest, he comes up with so many bars that you gotta respect it, but a lot of people don't. They think it's like a character, like he's a gimmick dude, but he's a real MC and he needs to be respected, man. So 6 on this list is pretty close. 5, 6. I wouldn't have been mad at that at all.
Yeah, I agree with that. Camo, what do you think, man?
Yeah, man. He definitely gets overlooked. I probably hardly ever hear him in the big talk of big lyricists ever. And I think that might have a lot to do with kind of what you were touching on about 3 Stacks was he's a bigger than life kind of caricature, especially when he's got the big head photos and videos and the hair out and the midget on the neck. And it's like, oh man, this dude's funny. I think they forget how deadly this dude is as a lyrical assassin. Like, he don't play at all. I mean, I've never heard Ludacris in nobody's top 10 myself personally, but wow, you know what I mean? I think he checks off all the boxes, so he's definitely a well-rounded artist as far as the visuals, all the different categories of songs and all that. But I don't care what kind of song he's making. He's definitely skilled. He makes his words count. He's not wasting any lyrics, any bars or anything. if you really listen to him, and the heads know, like, that dude ain't no joke, man.
Yeah, and this is something I just thought about. It didn't make it into our list last week, but his battle with T.I., like, he showed his teeth in that battle. Like, that is one that we need to explore later on. We'll explore later on in another show. But he showed his teeth in that battle, and I do agree with you. I think I've talked with an author about this, the same thing in books, that because she writes books with humor in them, she feels like a lot of times people don't, they don't get taken seriously for the awards because people think, oh, well, it's funny, so it must not be that serious.
Right.
And I think people make that mistake with Luda because Luda's the same way. I mean, he's a funny dude. He likes to play around. His name is Ludacris. I mean, let me
All
go. Now we're getting into the meat of this list, though. We go into the top 5 most underrated MCs, and coming in at number 5, Redman. Camo, start us off with Redman.
A little surprised to see him on this list too. Not as surprised as Three Stacks, but I feel like he gets pretty good props. I think the dude's been doing it long enough and hard enough to where I think most people know. It may not be the first name that they mention because maybe he hadn't dropped a single here lately, or which he's been on it lately, but you know what I mean. Maybe he's not in the forefront of people's memory or whatever about it, but I think when you name that, I had never seen nobody argue against somebody mentioning Redman as a lyricist. In fact, if
think-
you
Well, I think one thing, I don't mean to interrupt you, but real quick, like, I think there's probably a difference between, I think there's a level to where even if people won't argue when they bring your name up, the fact that maybe they don't bring your name up as much as they should. Now, maybe, yeah.
That's a
But
good
I'm
point.
sorry. Go ahead, man.
No, I was just saying, like, if you ever look at like posse tracks where people's like spitting hard or remixes or whatever, that's one of the first names that people go to. Like in history, if you look at the history, like, you know what Redman's gonna do on a track. You know what I mean? But yeah, at the same time, not mad at all that he's on here because one of the greatest, one of my favorites, just seems like a good dude, a fun dude. So definitely not mad that he's on here and giving him some props.
And absolute, before we get to you, man, Redman might be another one of those dudes who suffers a little bit from being funny because that dude is funny. But go ahead, man.
I mean, I was coming right there with it, right? I was coming right there. First of all, can you
I'm
be
sorry.
mad and not mad that somebody is on the list? Right? Because first of all, I'm angry he's on this list because he should not be on this. That dude is lyrically gifted, period.
Yeah.
So you're saying whether he should be or shouldn't be on this list, he should not be on this list.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The dude is lyrically gifted, man. But he deserves to be on this list because he is always thought of, but never the first thought, right? Like Method Man and Red, right? Like even when you think of the Def Squad, right? When you think of the original EPMD, Chief Murk, when you think of the original Rick K. Solo, like Red was right there in the thick of things and still one of the best, but he was just never forefront. Like EPMD broke up and he should have been the top thing stacked under that umbrella, but he wasn't. I mean, Keith Murray had a great album, but it was an album. The second one didn't come close to what the first one did, but Red was consistent all the way through. Like this dude spits with anybody and can. Like I be watching his series on.
Bang.
I don't know if it's on I follow him on Instagram, but he's got a series where he just freestyles to the greatest beats out there and that just
Been going for a while.
plus stop my time. Stop my time. Plus, he has one of the greatest. Him and Trick Daddy have one of the greatest MTV cribs to ever go down in the history of that show. In the history of that show, bro. It was must-see TV.
You were about to get the horn anyway, until you made me think about those two MTV cribs. I was gonna give you the horn until you made me think about those two. Hey, Camo, do you have anything else on that one, man?
No, man, I forgot. I'm sorry. My bad. Threw us off.
Not the best. He's not the best co-host in the league for nothing, y'all. All right, coming in at number 4, his partner, one of the other rappers we already talked about, Method Man.
Yeah.
Big absolute, Method Man.
What you've said here today is the most idiotic and ridiculous thing I've ever heard. At no point did you make one coherent thought. Everyone else in this room is dumber for hearing it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul. Like, that's what I feel. That's what I feel. When okay, how do you say Method Man is an underrated spitter when you can't give me 9? It's hard to give me 9 MCs better than Method Man. Like, it's straight spitters. It's hard. Straight spitters. Quote them. Well, I mean, we're not talking about most albums and stacking the criteria. We're just talking about straight spitters. Method Man has metaphor, similes, scheme, delivery, punches. Like, this dude is a chameleon of rap and can fit in any pocket you give it. I remember 2 shows ago or a show ago when we were talking about Black Thought and the Funk Flex thing, right? Like, we joked about how Meth had to get in the phone, but what we didn't say is that was 7 minutes into the freestyle. Like, he didn't go right to the phone. Like, that was deep. Black Thought was just on one of them tangents. But should he be on the list? Possibly, as far as to the masses. But I feel like real hip hop fans, real spitters, will think we have lost our rabbit ass minds for putting this man on the list.
Well, I would like to respond to that. I believe that's the first person I thought of. And anytime people say slept on lyricists, that's one of the first people, because I thought, just like what you're saying, that everybody knew these things. But it turns out I've seen top 50 MC lists that he wasn't even on. How do you make a top 50 MCs list? Exactly. So yeah, we know it. We love him. The heads know it, but I don't feel like he gets nowhere near enough respect that he deserves. If you look at his way with words, his verses, how intricate they are, he does callbacks like comedians. It's multi-layered. And I personally, I think that's probably the first one that I put on the list, because I don't think people. It's baffling to me how people act like he can't spit. Like, oh yeah, I'll go, man. Method Man's hard. I've actually heard people go, yeah, he's straight. He's all right. He's all right.
Chad, before you go, and I'll give you this. Come on. I think the last 2 on this list are victims of each other, because I think the best and the worst thing that happened to their career individually was the Blackout album. Them joining forces and them becoming Meth and Red, like, it was a blessing for hip hop. And any hip hop fan, if you believe that collaboration should have never happened, something is truly wrong with you mentally, you should go talk to somebody. But for their individual judgment, they are now linked together. They're like melded together. And now it's hard to see them as individuals. So in that regard, in that argument, I can see how they both end up on a list like this.
Meth is also a really intelligent dude.
Yeah.
Like, listen to Meth, and I always talk about everybody's interviews. It's a rap show, and I talk about people's interviews a lot. But I mean, look, man, who you are informs who you are as an artist, and I like to hear where they're coming from the other side of that music sometimes. And Meth is a really sharp dude, and it comes across in his music. He likes to play around a lot. He does like to have fun. He's another one of those guys that, especially when he's with Red, maybe a lot of these people on this list do fall into that. They're funny rappers. And a lot of people end up not taking them seriously because they're funny, with the exception of Big Boy. He looks pretty serious most of the time. All right, coming in at number 3, Lil Wayne, Lil Louisiana. Camo, you feeling this one already? What's up?
First 2 names I saw was that I was taken aback by was Andre and Lil Wayne. I was like, how? that seems to be the first two. I didn't want to mention it earlier when I was talking about, but that's the first two people I see people name all the time. This is not a slight to Lil Wayne, 'cause I think he's very talented, especially once he switched his style up, went from like a hot boy to Lil Wayne as we know it now. That was super impressive because I don't know if we've ever seen anybody. That'd be like if I don't know, Diddy's son started rapping like Redman or something, or you know what I mean, or Eminem or something. You know, Hot Boys was cool, but he wasn't spitting
Nah,
like that. It was like where'd the hot? It was. I was trying to figure out how that happened. So he's definitely skilled, but I hear people say Lil Wayne all the time. If anything, I wouldn't call him underrated. I would probably say I hate to say he's overrated because he's immensely talented. But sometimes people's like, did you hear that Lil Wayne lyric? And it might be, I don't know. I don't have one off the top of my head, but it may be something that's kind of like, yeah, that's not really. He has way better lyrics, way better lyrics than some of the quotables that people give him and stuff. And I'm like, so yeah, I don't know. I think he gets his flowers and stuff, but that's just my
Well,
opinion.
BA, before you go, man, I think I mean, you can kind of look at this list as like, I suppose there are people out there who could think Patrick Mahomes is underrated. Actually, I've seen ESPN argue that. So, I mean, you know, absolutely. Let me hear what you think about it.
too many women, but not enough time. I'm a cool cat, but I'm on life 9. Pimpin' ain't dead 'cause I be the lifeline, and I don't buy the bar 'cause they don't sell white wine. Let me just, when Camo said the dude grew up, that bar is all I ever think about, right? And the rest of that 16 is incredible, right? But I think, again, Lil Wayne falls in the same category, and I'm gonna keep going back to him because he's one that didn't end up on this list for the reason that I'm going to say it's very confusing how Wayne is ever underrated, right? People always pick up the phone, call Wayne, call Buster. Everybody wants a feature, right? They want them to make their song or their project better, right? But in the very next breath, he is never in anybody's top 5. And it's baffling why, right? I mean, you can split hairs all you want to, but what box does he not check off? Because like Kemo said, as he started to grow up and got out of the hot boy stage and became a MC, because the three of us are not, excluded. Every rapper has to figure out either I'm gonna stay in the pocket of being a rapper or I'm gonna have to figure out how to be an MC. And if you're trying to be an MC, there's a transition period you have to go through. And all the greats kind of go through, right? You got to grow. You got to grow through your music. And he has, to a point where I think he's only underrated because of the expectation of the level we expect him to deliver to. Like, trying to
You've
cut it
reached your
off, so I was
limit on
trying.
talking.
Hold it.
Yeah, like I can see, I can see how. I mean, I can see how there are ways you could think he's underrated. I don't know. I think because I got into so much of New Orleans rap when it first started popping off with P and um yeah, so I really got into that. So I've always kind of, I don't know if it was the circles I run in or that kind of thing, but I've always heard people who would elevate him. Sometimes I felt like they elevated him too much, but then there are times when I think people will tell me that he's just trash. So it doesn't offend me that he's on this list because I mean, I can't. I've heard it all different ways with him, and he might be one of those rappers that I hear it like where it's the most disparate, where it's the most across the board about what people think about him. Like some people will be, oh yeah, Wayne's top 5 for me, and then some people will be like, I wouldn't have Wayne in my top 100. Like it does get kind of crazy, but
Oh,
All right. All right. This is number 2. This one is real to me. Number 2 and number 1 are both very real to me and both very personal to me. This one, number 2, is Big Krit, and you could put him at number 1, and I wouldn't argue with that either. Because I'll start this one just by saying when they started having this most recent beef, and they were saying the big 3, I was offended as a rap
For him.
fan that the big 3 did not include Big Krit.
Same.
Like, I was like, wait a minute, y'all arguing that they're the big 3 and you're not putting Krit in this? Like, I've listened to the Krit's mixtapes, which were like albums. I've listened to his albums. I've seen him live. Look, man, Krit is everything you need a rapper to be. I mean, his production, he's one of the, he's a top 10 producer. He's a top 5 rapper to me overall. Like, I'm offended that I have to put him this high on this list, but number 2 is real. He could be number 1. It's real, and it is offensive that people don't give Big Krit more credit than he deserves.
Very much.
Camo, what do you think, man?
Big Krit. I feel the same way you do. Number 2 and number 1, I was probably the most happiest to see those 2 on this list. I think I've said before in a previous show, if I had to pick, and I loved Pac growing up and DMX, but if I had to say right now, and this has been probably for the last 3 years, I think I came with this realization that probably my favorite artist ever, I would probably say Big Krit. Being from the South, I can relate to a bunch of the imagery and stuff that's in his lyrics. And I'm like you, man. I don't know, one, why he's not mentioned as a lyricist, but also the dude's making his own beats. He's producing for other people. He's singing, he's rapping. I mean, look at the digital Roses Don't Die, which is not even what we used to get from Krit. I would think, like, if you present that to me as a pitch beforehand, I would go, I like
Bang, bang,
Buzz.
bang, bang, bang.
And but that might be one of my favorite albums from him. And it's not even like a traditional, y'all. The dude's just like you said, man. It's disgusting. I'm disgusted that people don't put him on the list. He was a monster. His shows live, everything. This dude definitely checks all boxes twice. Circles back, checks them again, just to make sure that he delivered in all categories. That's how I feel about Big Krit, and I'll leave it at that.
Absolute. What do you think, man? We've hammered it pretty hard, man. Where you come down on Mr. Cadillactica?
First off, let's get it clear. Arguably, one of the 5 best performances on BET ever. Let me say it again. Ever. What he did at the Hip Hop Awards was by far and away a showstopper. They could have cut the show off. They could have cut it off right then, rolled the credits, turned off the lights, gave everybody, hey, it's done, and nobody would ask for their money back. You understand what I'm saying? He gave it to them. But it's real quick. Does anybody remember when we first got introduced to Krit? Also on BET, on that BET cipher, where he destroyed the cipher, destroyed.
Yes.
So to piggyback on your point, before I catch the horn, Chad, when you said you were mad when they were talking about the big 3 and it wasn't him, I didn't know who else they were. I couldn't figure out who the third one was. I was like, right, because I got argued against all the other ones to not be one of them. So I was like, who else could they be talking about? But that's neither here nor there. Big Krit is a dude that if Big Krit did a song with the likes of a Jay or Kanye, wait, like that's kind of happened. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, like, when you start thinking about why he's not more known, there's no reason, right? There's nothing out there that he hasn't done, but yet no one talks about this dude. It's criminal, actually. I won't say the other word. It's 187, very criminal.
He gets a lot of love, I think, especially in the South, but definitely not as a lyricist, which is crazy. Which I think that's what
bonkers.
I mean, we've seen it Me and Chad saw him and
Well, there are a lot of people that are just like, oh, I love his music. But but like where they rank him, they're like, oh no, I don't really put him up that high. But I don't understand the disconnect with him. Like usually a lot of these other rappers, I at least have a plausible theory, a theory in my head that works as to why they're underrated. I don't get this one.
it makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good way to leave him. Big Krit is something special, man. Which leads us to our number one most underrated rapper right now. I'll leave the horns off for this one. The number one most underrated rapper, one that I completely agree with, to Mr. Ice Cube. Big Absolute. Big Absolute. I know you're a fan, so we all are, but I know you're a West Coast guy, so take it away.
I started my segment last show with these words. I'm gonna say it again to start this part. Oh man, I'm glad y'all said it all. Right? When I tell you, you can put 50, you can put 100 outside of the West Coast. Nobody would tell you Ice Cube is a lyricist. He might get the title storyteller. He may get Godfather hip hop or gangster rap or whatever. He may get a bunch of names and titles, but lyricist isn't one of them, right? So I challenge you. He made a song called One Time in the Project. And he told a story about going to pick up a girl he was dating in the project. There's one thing to tell a story, and I tell you, good lyricists give you visuals, they give you spots, they give you things that you can literally see. Every time I hear Ice Cube spit a verse, I see the video or I see it play out live, right? He's very detailed in his delivery. He's very vivid in how he puts words together, right? But nobody gives this dude the solid foundation and the love he needs for his craft. And it's criminal. It's criminal. I mean, we talked about it last week. This dude ended arguably one of the best groups as a group ever to make music. Ended it. And then went on to do things that some of the biggest names in rap still haven't accomplished. And I'm talking about on the pinnacle of success. There's Ice Cube, Will Smith, LL Cool J, Queen Latifah, Jay-Z. Like that's kind of like the Mount Rushmore of the gamut. Ludacris maybe coming in at 6, just kind of like how his movie career and acting career is starting to come along. But again, no one's list. Nobody talks about how he spits. He's just there because he's just there, right? The dude I think he's just dropped the album or just dropped the EP a couple weeks ago, right? He's got a song with Snoop, right? I mean, we can do this for years because I've been dying to be able to talk about Cube and how he gets disrespected lyrically in the rap game.
Camo, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things that goes in with that. I think one, because he was from such a controversial and groundbreaking group that was that stood for what they stood for. I think that might over some time in people's heads take precedence in their mind over his lyrics. I think another one is that he's an older cat. So, a lot of times newer generations will discount, those type of cats they're not doing their history and the research and stuff, paying homage to the ones that paved the way for some of their favorite people. And I think the other thing that overshadows people looking at him as a lyricist sometimes is Are We There Yet, for instance? His acting career. I'm just saying, there's people, they're like, oh, yeah, cute. Nah, bro. Like, you're right. It's definitely criminal. It's definitely I feel like I kind of channeled a little bit of that gangster rap inside of me every time somebody skips over his name and stuff. I'm like, Cube, though, come on, man. Yeah, he's all right. He's all right. I hate when people say that, man. He's all right. That means you don't know. I don't think you know if you tell me that a Cube is all right as a lyricist.
Yeah.
Again, when I saw Tony Yayo and them have that discussion, I'm like, you going too hard on Cube, bruh. Put some respect on. I swear, yeah. You ain't got all the answers, Yayo.
For real. For real.
Look, I'm gonna say something when it comes to Cube. I have a as to why I think he's underrated. I think I've got two reasons for it. But first one is he's an angry looking dude. Like it doesn't matter who you are. If you look that angry all the time and your background is gangster rap, people
Dog, you remember,
people are gonna be a little afraid of you.
you remember the movie Ride Along 2 where your man Kim Jong was like, you would run and like, have you seen you? You would run from
Yeah, he is an angry looking guy. But here's I think the more important point, that because I don't think people understand what all Cube has been able to do and by himself. And I don't mean by himself, everybody
But-
has help, but I mean independently. Like he went from, they created gangster rap, which they created their own genre of music, and then based on what they saw in the lives they were living, they created their own genre of music. They turned that into a successful music career. Cube turned that into a successful independent music career, solo career. Then he turned it into this television production that he has. And so he has accomplished more than, like, he's one of the most accomplished rappers in rap history as far as total career goes. Looking at everything, he's still doing albums, platinum albums, classic albums. And I mean, he's not still doing classic albums, but he's got classic albums, he's got platinum albums, he's still doing albums. And he's got, in totality, he's done more than I think probably 99% of other rappers. He's top 1% when it comes to his career.
he handled it his way. But after that, he got in them books. He got educated about the process, right? And it seems like every time somebody's ever told Cube no, or that's not how it's done, or I can't do it that way, he goes off and takes that no, that negative, and does it his way, bigger and better, and it works out for him every time.
That's a good thing to end it on. That is our list, y'all. Books, Rhymes, and Life list of the top 9 most underrated MCs, most underrated rappers. We appreciate y'all for hanging in there, for listening to this. It's been a lot of fun. Please do not forget to smash that like and subscribe button. It does a lot for us. It helps helps Jay take the freak train to down to Atlanta when things get popping off over there. And it helps Brad get the kids on Thomas the train when the holidays coming around, because he likes to really do it big for the holidays. So y'all help us out there. We really appreciate y'all being a part. That's it for us, y'all. Y'all be good.